Hello, thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of Be My Guest. I've got an absolute treat for you today. I really mean that, genuinely. I'm joined by Lizzie Acker. She became an instant hit with the nation after being a contestant on the Great British Bake Off on Channel 4 back in 2021. Fans of the show fell in love with her because of her amazing personality, her super positive attitude to life, and her fun fashion and hairstyles. If you don't know what I mean, Google it. They're brilliant. And of course, not forgetting her fantastic bakes on the show as well. I instantly became a fan because I just think she's got this beautiful aura about her. And during Bake Off, we learnt that Lizzie has ADHD, she's got dyslexia, and she's also got dyspraxia. And she was so open about neurodiversity on the show. And because of this, she then became a huge voice for the neurodiverse community. Today, Lizzie has a huge following on social media where she uses both her voice and her platform to discuss dyslexia, ADHD and dyspraxia. As she says, the more we speak about it, the more we can create a neurodiverse friendly culture for everyone. So Lizzie, you were on Bake Off in 2021. What are you up to now?
So I left my job before Bake Off about 6 months ago, and I've just been doing a bit of content creation and charity work. But I've learned there's not enough stability there for me. I think being neurodiverse, I need a lot of what's the word? Like organisation and routine. And I think freelance is just not the life for me. So I've recently joined to work with a charity that offers neurodiverse training across the UK.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So a nice little fit.
Yeah.
I think.
Where is that? What charity is it?
It's called the Mason Foundation. So I start in April. So right now I'm in that panic zone of, starting a new job, new people and all that. Because my last job, I worked there for 9 years and I was so used to it.
Did you? What was that?
So I worked in a car factory building cars, like 4x4s.
Wow. Did you love it?
So I was like, dubious. I love working with the people I work with. It was, just basically worked with loads of lads. I was a ladette.
Yeah.
It was me and in my group, me and 20 lads. So
I bet you had some good nights out.
Yeah, it was very crazy and wild, and there's always be funny things going on.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was the right place for me.
No. And what about the baking then? Are you still doing that? Is that still a career opportunity?
Yeah. So I still bake, and there's still mass opportunities coming through, and you can do stuff. But I am I like to have a lot going on. I don't like this one thing. Like even before Bake Off, I was never I'd work my job on shifts and I'd be samba dancing. I was a samba dancer for a while, a skateboarder. I've always got to be doing stuff. I don't like, I say what normal people like, steadiness. That is my worst nightmare.
Yeah, the sort of 9 to 5, doing the same thing all the time.
Yeah, and you go to the gym at 6 o'clock no, I can't hack it.
Join the club, Lizzie. I'm exactly the same.
I'm I need to be doing something different. At one point, I even pole dancing for a while, and I was like,
did you?
Oh, this is actually really hardcore. I don't think it's for me.
I feel like I need to do an interview of you every year just to see what's changed.
What hobbies have you had this year? And I'm like, oh yeah.
What have you added to the list?
I'm so up and down and crazy with stuff that it is never the same.
Yeah. Where did your love of baking come from?
So basically, I grew up in a really big family, and a lot of my cousins and stuff, we live a road away from each other. A lot of my cousins are academic, and I really wasn't. And it was really struggling in school, obviously because I was neurodiverse and couldn't handle the schooling system I was in. And my nan kind of noticed that, and she was an like when I say this, people think like, oh, she must have been a lovely cook and stuff. Like she was horrendous. Like I remember once she gave us a green cauliflower, like submerged in this murky water, and I was like, oh my god, she's trying to kill us. So she she gave me like the opportunity to. She took me to Lakeland and she bought me like what are they called, like horns, like the cream horns, and was like, oh, you should try this. And then I kind of got into it then, and it was a sense of independence that I never really got because it was helped so much, in it, like every other aspect of life. I'd have helpers at school. I'd go to extra help out of school. So I think it was like the only place where I felt like a bit of independence, and I really enjoyed it. So I just carried on, and then kind of went off it, getting through GCSEs and stuff. And then I'd changed schools to a different sixth form, which was an all girls. It had just turned from private to an academy, and they only really let me in because I was neurodiverse, so I got more points, and I had a sister who was in the lower school, so I got more points, so that's why they let me in. I wouldn't have got in otherwise. And the first day I was there, they asked me to drop to 2 A levels, and I hadn't been to any classes or anything, and it really knocked my confidence.
I bet.
And I just never fitted in at all. I never fitted in with the teachers. I really struggled, and I just started making all the girls' 18th birthday cakes, and got like confidence back. I do bake sales in school for people that were going on like, they used to go on like mad school holidays, like they went to South Africa, and I was thinking, my school before we went Wales once, like what's going on? And I'm there selling cakes to get these kids to South Africa. What? It's mad. And then from there I just started baking again, then went on and off with my hobbies, and then started baking but during COVID for like the street, and then that's where Bake Off came into it.
Wow. How did you learn to bake? Because it sounds like everyone around you didn't have a clue.
It was just very experimental. Like my early baking is horrendous, and like I'll go into like baking clubs and they'll be like, oh, and I'm like, everything's hit and miss. I don't think even like the top bakers of the world have like bad days. I don't think anyone's like knocking out great recipes all the time straight off. There was one cake I remember, I didn't know how to colour icing, so I just bought, that liquid colour and stuff from the Asda, and painted this cake yellow, and it was absolutely vile. And I started off with box cakes because they're a great way to build confidence, and I think that's all it takes for someone to latch onto something. You just need to be, get a good result once or twice, and it's fine to start off with a box cake to do that.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be perfect. That's the thing.
Yeah, I think I think there's too much of a pressure of, like, I'm going to try this and I'm going to be amazing at it first time, and that's a reality for no one.
There's a pressure as well, isn't there? Like, because of social media, that there's all these perfect looking cakes and bakes, and people are almost trying to live up to that standard as well, but that's not realistic.
Like, for social media, people are taking hours to make cakes. I can tell you now that half of them are them polystyrene things that they just stick icing on.
Yeah.
And you just like, there has to be some realness. And I think that's what I try to do on my social media. I always try and, in my stories, I'm always like real. I'll tell people what's happening. And I think that's why I've built this lovely community, because I don't know, there's no like fake me. Do you get me?
So how did, so you said that the Bake Off came round to you during COVID. Did you sign up for it yourself?
So I was coerced by a friend, Simon. He was on the first ever Bake Off the Professionals. And so he's like professional, what do they call, patisserie chef. And through Bake Off, I was like, through COVID, I was making breads for like all my neighbours and cakes, and just to get by and do something. And he was like, oh, you should apply for Bake Off, you'd be hilarious. And I was like, no. And then the day before the application went in, he texted me and he was like, have you applied? Because if you haven't, I'm just going to apply for you. And I thought, if he applies for me, he will tell all my deepest, darkest secrets. So I'll do this myself, and I done it. And the funny thing is like I never took it seriously. And it says like describe the way you bake, and I put like flap artist, and it makes you send a video. And I sent a video in my pajamas, and I was hungover, and I was like, "Oh, I'm hungover in my pajamas. This is my tiny kitchen," and then it kind of just snowballed from there. But when I went to, because after Bake Off, they ask you to, encourage other people to apply.
Mm.
And they were like, oh, you might not want to tell people you're in your pajamas because people might think you didn't really want to get on. And I'm like, what? Why the bad?
Why should you care? It's just you, isn't it?
Exactly. I go my pajamas into the acid and everything, so they got me at my best.
I'm in pajamas now, Lizzie.
See?
Did you realise going in the impact that you would have on the neurodiverse community?
No, and I do think the impact was more impactful because of editing. Because I'm really open about being neurodiverse, and that's something the show had to like make reasonable adjustments for. So I'd mentioned it in different episodes, Biscuit Week. We had to make 24 biscuits, and obviously counting, not my best suit, and I did actually make one biscuit under. So that would have been an opportunity for them to bring it up then, but they left it until that specific bake too. So that's like I think the impactfulness came from the editing, because in the weeks before it was never mentioned or anything, even though there was conversations about it and it had been brought up. So that was definitely on their behalf, because I was just, I didn't think it was going to do anything, because I do celebrate my neurodiversity, and I think it's completely fine to be neurodiverse and stuff. Whereas I know a lot of people don't and struggle to accept diagnosis and are still fighting for diagnosis. So I do think the impactfulness was down to editing. I just made a cake at the end of the day.
You're just too humble, Lizzie. That's what it comes down to, because it was a huge impact on the show, and you talked about it very, very openly and honestly, and you talked about ADHD, dyslexia, and dyspraxia. Now, can you tell me what each of those are in terms of how you define them, how they show up in your life, and I'm talking for someone that's never heard about these before?
So I tend not to define them separately and just define them as neurodiversity, because I sometimes feel like if I'm like, okay, so me dyslexia is why I've got a reading age of a 9-year-old, and it's why I can't spell and all this, and then I'm like, and dyspraxia is why I hold things funny, I'm covered in bruises. I sometimes feel like I haven't got a personality, that I'm just like a creation of these neurodiversity. So I do just call it as one. I just think it's easier for me to, because then I don't feel so defined, I think, by them.
And then you're not putting them in little boxes, because then it's just a total umbrella of who you are. Yeah,
that's how I see it now. But like, obviously I've had to break it down to people before, because that's how you get assessments, and I wasn't diagnosed with all three of them at once. I was first diagnosed with dyslexia. So dyslexia is like, it affects memory for me. I'm always losing stuff, but that you get that effect with ADHD as well. The ADHD causes me to lock into hobbies and to lose concentration fast. But then I can be so concentrated that I'll get like a week's worth of jobs done in 4 hours. It also means that I always have scenarios going on in my head, like it's never quiet. And then the dyspraxia is my motion skills, and getting dressed for me is really hard, like putting your legs into trousers and stuff, which people are like, what? And I'm like, yeah, like, oh, it's a nightmare getting dressed.
Is that because of balance?
Yeah, and just coordination as well, like the both of them together. And then you think like Lizzie, why are you trying pole dancing and all this? And I'm like, yeah, I know.
But you're a trier. That's what it is. You give everything a try.
Yeah, definitely.
So how did the diagnosis of those come around?
So I was really, so I've got a cousin who's 3 months younger than me, and so we're probably the closest in age, and he was a lot more like achieving the targets, that schools and educational boards set out,
Mm-hmm.
and I was so far behind. And my real name is Elizabeth Acker, so
Mm-hmm.
E and A, and I can't, still struggle to this day with E's and A's, even
Mm-hmm.
though, it's there for me. Um, and so my mum was like, no, she's struggling. There's something. She's not, because I got loads. She's just lazy. She doesn't want to do the work. She's lazy.
Oh.
And my mum was like, she's not, there's something there. And she really pushed for me to get a diagnosis. And then from then on, I went to an after school centre
Mm-hmm.
for neurodiversity and learning disabilities. And I'd go there twice a week until I was 18. And from there, the teachers more specialised, and they were like, oh, I think she's got a bit of that ADHD, because this kid's off the wall. My mum was like, oh yeah, she is a bit, she takes a lot to keep calm her. And so then I got an ADHD and then dyspraxia.
Mm-hmm.
But I genuinely don't think it took any effect on me until I was at uni. And you have to apply, for all the university extra stuff, because when you're kind of in just the general, secondary school and primary school, the school kind of sorts it out from school to school.
Mm.
And then when you go to university, you've got to sort it out yourself, send off a +16 and what your accommodations are. So while I was in school, I think I was very blasé, and I was just like, yeah, whatevs. I
Mm-hmm.
don't even know what none of this means. And I went to uni and I was like, oh, okay.
Now you have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I do need this extra time actually and stuff.
Yeah. Was
But
it for you a kind of relief in a way to get the diagnosis?
no, because I think I was so young as 8. I think later diagnosis people are normally a sense of relief, but I think that comes with adulthood and knowing who you are.
That makes sense. Yeah. How did the other kids react?
I don't think any of my primary school friends noticed a difference. I got a helper and stuff. In secondary school, there was a few differences, because then I got these. So sometimes when you're dyslexic, it used to be classified as a different thing called Ale syndrome with your eyes, but now I
Okay.
think it's just classified as a reading aid.
Mm.
And sometimes people have sheets to put over what they read. But obviously, me being me, I had to go one step further and get glasses.
Mm-hmm.
And I got them in a dark green tint, because that was the colour that helped me read at the time. And I was like to my mum, I am not wearing them in school unless they're in pink Parada frames. And my mum being demented, what is this kid on? And I was like, so I used to go to school with these pink Parada frame glasses with these dark tints that look like sunglasses.
Oh, Lizzie.
They were awful, so bad. And then expect to sit in a class and teachers not to say anything. And then when they did say something, I'd be like, well, sir, that's discrimination, that. Teachers must have been like, oh, you can't say anything to her, she's crazy. But,
Do you?
so I go on.
Do you now, and particularly after the show, did you get a lot of messages from kids that said, oh, there's someone like me on the telly?
Yeah, so the first thing that happened was there was a school teacher down south. I forget the primary school's name, and it was a neurodiverse primary school, and she printed off plain cakes and got all the kids to colour and decorate the cake as what their brain would be.
Mm-hmm.
And then she sent me them all, and I was just like, oh wow, this is mad. And my teacher from my old dyslexic school got in contact and was like, I just feel so proud of you. And I was like, when you get really overwhelmed, I had to take a couple of days off work, because I was like, this is mad, because my old teacher was like, do you remember you used to always complain that the only person you knew was Whoopi Goldberg with dyslexia? And I was like, yeah, I do remember that. Because I was obsessed with Sister Act, because I'd be like, oh yeah, do you know, she's got dyslexia. Like, we bonded. um, and she was like, oh, now all the kids have come to centre, I've got a photo of you up. And I'm like, Lizzie goes here, Lizzie went here, and all this.
Oh, wow.
I was made up.
Was it quite limited for you as a child watching telly? Because you talk about Whoopi Goldberg, but I imagine there's not a huge amount of people back then that were openly talking about any of these.
Yeah, there was no one. I remember someone saying like Einstein was dyslexic, and me being like, how would you even know that? But yeah, literally Whoopi Goldberg was, I think, the only person, because at one point I was like, I'm going to be an actor like Whoopi, and I joined drama school. I was like, how does she even read these scripts? Like, what's going on? But yeah, there was no one for me to be like, oh wow. And then I think when I was in my teens, it came like Richard Branson and stuff started talking about it. But you very, very rarely see it. And what I do think you see is people saying, oh, I've got dyslexia or I've got ADHD, and this is my superpower, but they don't really talk about how it affects them in everyday life, and how it can still be a struggle, and that it's kept at a very like a level, like a one level.
Yeah, it's sort of just mentioned, isn't it? And that's it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that now, because you know, something that I would like to know from you is, with the ADHD, how would you describe it to someone who doesn't have it outside of the community?
I'd describe it as something that is always there. It's took such an effect on my life in so many little ways that for me, my life is completely adapted now to all these little things that I do to make it easier for myself. But for someone else, they might look at me and think, why is she doing that? Or
what would they be? What would be an example?
So like for me, reading, like if I get a form, I'll be like, oh, could you just read that line for me? Or I find it really hard to travel by myself. You know, if it's not like a direct, I'm getting on one place and I'm getting off, if I've got to change, because I find it really hard to read the boards in a train station. So I have to like stalk people and try and get them to adopt me. I'm like, are you going to London? Okay, I'll just come. And so there's so many little aspects that I have to worry and think about that people don't. Like learning to drive, like it was so, like, I don't know why I just didn't do automatic. But my dad was really pushing for me. He was like, you got to drive manual, it's the best. But it would have been so much easier for me with my dyspraxia just to drive an automatic car.
And why is that? Because the actual movement of the gear stick.
Yeah, and my hands, you know, doing different things at one time. Like that is not a place that I excel in. Like I can't play like video games really, like struggle, because it's the coordination of, you know, moving differently. Yeah.
Oh, so I see. So even with driving a car, the actual movement of the clutch, the gear stick, and putting an indicator on at the same time would be difficult for you.
It's a lot. So I've really got to concentrate. So the first year I drove, the only thing that I could concentrate on with was Taylor Swift, and I'd play Taylor Swift constantly, just on repeat, because I knew everything. So I knew like there was no distraction in my concentration. And all my mates used to get in and be like, oh, this song again, and I'd be like, shut up and just listen. And I'd be like so tense driving.
It sounds like if there's an issue in your life that you try to fix it in whatever way possible, and it sounds like you try to go down the fun route to try to make that work. Does it frustrate you at the beginning though?
It does, and I think because ADHD, I really find it hard to regulate my emotions. Right. So I have quite big reactions, and then I'll get really upset, and then I'll have to calm myself down, and I'll be like, right, okay, let's sort this out now. So there is always that in the background. Like, I've been kicked out of the pictures before for crying too much.
You haven't.
I have. So the boy in striped pajamas, it honestly tipped me over the edge.
Oh, Lizzie.
And I just can't control it. Like, I cry so much. And so there's all that, but I think you've just kind of got to get on with it, because I just don't think there's a lot of support at all for neurodiverse people over the age of 18 if you're out of university.
Yeah. What support would you like?
I think there definitely needs to be more awareness for jobs and the barriers to get jobs. So less than 6% of the UK workforce is neurodiverse, which is so low. And it's so hard, like the application processes. So like, even when I was looking for like a little job to do, applying, it's horrendous. And you get like I was applying to, because it had to be something that I wanted to do, so it had to be something neurodiverse or to do with communications and content. And I applied to some universities, and you know them job applications where you've got to retype out, they ask for your CV and then you retype it out as well, and I'm like, no, I'm done. So there's so much awareness that needs to be there, and for jobs to know what a reasonable adjustment is, that it doesn't have to cost you loads of money, and it can be something really little, but they're so important.
I think as well when it comes to like a job interview, I was just thinking that it's very difficult, because I would imagine there's a lot of employers out there that are looking at what a person in your situation and others can't do, but actually there's a hell of a lot of things that you can do to make a difference in that workplace to make it even better.
Yeah, massively. So I work with a charity. I'm an ambassador of a charity called Steps to Work at Strawberry Fields, and they help people 18 to 25 get into employment over the barriers. And there was a lad there called David, and he's autistic and struggles with communication, but he speaks 5 languages.
Wow.
And he was told, like, oh, you're just never going to get a job. And that was it. People had settled on him. And he came to Strawberry Fields, and they were like, this kid would be amazing at the ferry terminal. Like, so they set about building his confidence. They've got a little shop, they put him in there, you know, people coming up to him, and now he works at a ferry terminal. He can speak like Spanish, German. He can direct people when they come to Liverpool, and it's amazing. But it's taking the time out to give that one-on-one personalisation of, right, where can you fit in, and you're going to be amazing there and thrive. And I don't think society gives that time up.
You talked earlier about, you know, and especially in job interviews and things like that, filling in applications forms, reading, and I see in your Instagram that you've got books, you're reading them, the Harry Potter books. Where are you at now if you're reading?
So I try and read every Sunday on TikTok Live, because I think TikTok's a random one, isn't it? It throws you to random people. And I'm hoping, like, it gets to a mum that's got a kid with dyslexia and has just done homework, and they're like, I can't do it, and they're throwing it, and the mum sees that and is like, you know, like, it doesn't matter. Like, if you can't do it now, you can take your time and do it at some point. So my reading age is 9 years, 3 months. I've read 2 Roald Dahl books. I've read Matilda, and I've read The Witches. I read The Wizard of Oz, and I'm now reading The Faraway Tree, by Enid Blyton, I think it is. Just because I think the kids' books are a bit easier, even though I am convinced Roald Dahl makes up words. And I don't know what type of, because I do listen to audiobooks, but I find them quite hard as well. Like, you know, sometimes they have that robotic noise of the person reading. I can't hack that.
I fall asleep a lot of times.
yeah, and then I just switch off and I'm like, I've listened to a chapter and I'm thinking, what have I even listened to? So I know that reading physically a book will help me as well with forms and like just the wider world.
How did you learn to accept that? Because reading on Instagram is such a huge thing for anyone to do. But for you, has always struggled with reading, to put yourself out there like that, how did you come to a place to accept that's just you when it comes to reading?
So I was in a school that I go to quite a lot, and I was with sixth formers, and one of the kids was about to do his theory test, and he was like, oh, he's talking about having dyspraxia and didn't think he could be able to drive, and I was like, well, I drive and I'm dyspraxic. And I was like, there's just not that visibility in where people are actually struggling, and you know, people of like an older age and where they're at. If you get me. So I was like, if I can just like go on, just say, listen, this is my reading age, and there's nothing I can actually do about it except try. Why not?
Is that a dog I hear?
I think it's my coat rubbing on my earphones, to be honest.
It sounds like a dog panting.
I forced one of my dogs is on a walk and one of them's sunbathing in the garden, but the door's open so they can run in and out.
Sunbathing. Oh, Lizzie, I can't stop laughing during this interview. What is it like for you? Because with the reading, it's difficult reading a novel. But what do you like with cookbooks, with the recipes and instructions?
So this is why I do think I'm okay. I got good with them technicals because I'm okay at like making a judgment and just going off what I actually think in my head. Because some cookbook books are horrendous to read, the layouts and stuff. And I don't know whether you've noticed loads of cookbooks are printed on that shiny paper.
Yeah.
Awful for dyslexia.
Is that difficult to read?
Oh yeah, so much worse. So I get once you've been on Bake Off, people send you loads of cookbooks, and I'm like, this is great, but like half of them I can't use. So I've just got. It makes me look really intelligent when you walk into my house. I've got a wall full of books, and people must think, oh my god, she's like Belle from Beauty and the Beast. But no, half of them I don't read. They're just there for show. I think the best book that I've seen laid out, which I looked at and I thought, oh, this is like my brain, is Heston Blumenthal's This Is a Cookbook.
Right.
And he does loads of adaptations?
Adaptations, yeah.
Off his recipe of, like bits, tips and stuff, and it's a map page, and it's just set like very clear, big space in between the steps. Oh, it's lovely. So I am a bit of a snob when people send me cookbooks, and I'm like, oh, this is set out horrendous.
Are there a lot of books out there that are catered for people with neurodiversities?
No, not at all. I obviously, once you come out of Bake Off, you do get opportunities, and I have spoke to publishers because when I came out, I was like, I'd love to do a neurodiverse friendly kids book for baking, and a lot of the response I got was there isn't the market there. The market's not big enough. And I was like, 1 in 10 people is neurodiverse. Like, how can you say that? But I think there is a market there, but neurodiverse people don't want to buy the books because they're not, they're not catered for them. So that's why they're not buying them.
Do you see all of your neurodiversities as something in life that holds you back, or are you now at a place that you see a lot of benefits to it?
I see loads of benefits. I won't lie to you. Some days I do get really frustrated, and I'm like, "Oh, this is ridiculous!" Like, but I do see loads of benefits because I see the world in a different way, and it makes me more creative, and I think it makes me a lot more empathetic. And I think it's made me who I am, and I quite like who I am. So
I mean, there's that level of acceptance, isn't there?
yeah, I think that level of acceptance of who you are is something everyone has to go through.
Yep.
Like, I don't think it's exclusive to neurodiversity. I think everyone has to find and accept who they are in life. I think being neurodiverse is just, you've got to accept being more vulnerable in academic and work situations, which can be quite hard.
But have a lot more benefits in other areas of your life.
Yeah, massively.
What would you say are some of the most common misconceptions that you want to see changed and stopped?
When kids get diagnosed and teachers say they're just lazy, because that's still massively about. I just, because I think it's so upsetting, because especially like neurodiverse kids in an education system where that doesn't cater for them, are tried so hard, and the test results come back and it's like nothing, and you're like, oh, how, like I cheated on one of my A levels and got an E, and I remember being like, if I didn't cheat, was there anything even coming? Like, how could that even happen? But it's because I just couldn't formulate like a essay like the exam board wanted me to, and I just don't think that's fair.
How did because you're at a place now where you said you actually like yourself, actually love yourself. Did going on Bake Off have an effect on that? What did you learn about yourself by going on Bake Off?
I do think it did. Well, I've always been like this, and it's what my friends find funniest. They're like, oh, like you could have like been a bit, more normal and stuff. You were just crazy, and I was like, well, why would I ever change me? Like, who I am to stand and make a cake. And I think the acceptance that I got off people that like me was amazing, because not all people like me, and some people are like, oh, she's so scout, or oh, the way she dresses and stuff, and that's fine. I think it was more the realization that the positivity of the people that like me builds me, and anything else I just don't really need to take notice of. It's not my business if people don't like me. So I think that's where Bake Off pushed and grew me, kind of, confidence wise.
Well, just keep doing what you're doing, Lizzie, because, that's why I fell in love with you watching you, back in 2021. It was all of those things that you said. It was your differences. I celebrated them. It was your crazy hair and your crazy fashion.
Oh, no, I've just come back from South Africa, and obviously my clothes are always dead bright. I've got pink and orange hair at the minute, and my sister was like, she dresses in all black because she's a tattoo artist, and she was like, oh, could you not have bought some khaki pants or something to try and fit in? And I was like, why? And she's like, oh, you're just a walking target.
Never change being you, Lizzie, because it's brilliant. Oh, thank you so much for your time today. And you know what, I can't wait for your own cookbooks, and hopefully it's geared towards the neurodiverse community, and I hope some publisher has a bit of common sense and realises the impact it will have on people.
Hopefully, I won't do one unless it is, because I am a bit stubborn.
Good. Good. Stick to your guns.
Oh, thanks so much. It was a lovely talk.
Oh, thank you so much. Go and get that dog in from sunbathing.
I know. She loves it. She's mad.